This is football. The last time they met in the postseason was the final game ever played in the AFL. 69 title game, the Chiefs won 17-7, then rolled the Vikings in Super Bowl IV. These days, the results have been the same. Saturday's 27-27 and Sunday's 27-21 KC win was their fourth straight over the Raiders, all of them tight by 6, 3, 3, and 2. This is the first playoff game in the history of Arrowhead Stadium, only the second in KC ever. How much are the fans revved up? How about 31,000 tickets sold in about 5 hours earlier in the week? We've learned that the Raiders are going to make the major gamble. Jay Schroeder continues to sit. The youngster, Todd Marinovich, second career NFL start ever, going to start in a playoff game. He took 90% of the snaps this week in practice. He is going to go. Big gamble for the Raiders, Joe. Is it a good move? Do you like him? What do you think?
I do like him. I think it is a big gamble for the Raiders. Obviously, Jay Schroeder was brought in to throw the ball down the field. That's the vertical passing game of the Los Angeles Raiders. Todd Marinovich does not have that strong an arm. He just doesn't have the ability to throw the ball as quickly down the field. Here he gets it up in a hurry, but look at how it hangs. See how that ball just sort of floats in the air? That's fine on grass. That's an acceptable principle on grass. But once you get onto AstroTurf, Deron Cherry is not going to be that far away. He's going to have to get it up and down a lot quicker while they're playing on the carpet.
So those floaters might really hurt their receivers today. Hurt them badly, thanks to KC's DBs. Well, on the other side of the ball, Joe, after thinking about making a move late in the season, the Chiefs are back with their 37-year-old veteran Steve DeBerg, who was a mere 5 for 5 as Kansas City starter against the Raiders. DeBerg is pleased to be back in the saddle again.
I probably had my best game of the year, following being benched. So, it's not like I prefer to be benched and then come back because I played better. But if you use it right, you can use it constructively.
Now, guys, we all know DeBerg can go north or he can go due south. But Joe, when he's on, he's as smooth as they come.
And you know something? You're right. This year, though, he's been off and on a lot more than he has in the past. When he's on, there's nobody better. Last week he was on. He came back out. He's playing a team that he's seen before. That's always scary when you get a veteran quarterback that has seen a team. But the thing that they're going to do here, if you watch the linebackers of the Los Angeles Raiders, DeBerg's a great play-action passer. Watch the reaction of the linebackers, not necessarily the ball on this play. As DeBerg goes back, he sticks the ball into the stomach of the running back. See how the linebackers react to that play-action fake? They realize Kansas City has an excellent running game. Buys him enough time just to hang the ball up in the air to J.J. Burton, who had a sensational career day last week against the Raiders. Beats Eddie Anderson going in for the Sweet 6. Now, you think it's just the play-action faking that sells it? No, it's not. It's the wide receivers as well. See that little hitch in his get-up, as subtle as it was? He was trying to set up Eddie Anderson, let him know that, hey, I'm going to try and block you. You think I'm going to block you? No, I'm not. Goodbye. I'm on my way.
Another move here for the Chiefs. We've just spoken to the Chiefs out at the ballpark. Mark Vlasic is now the second quarterback. There's a question because of his knee, was he going to be ready? But he's the second QB, which means he's healthy enough that if DeBerg really struggles, they could yank him and go with Vlasic, as they did a couple of times. So the Chiefs now have their full arsenal at quarterback. Now, last week, the KC running game was in full force against the Silver and Black, pulling up 206 yards on the ground. The real word was Barry Word, who has come on in December about as well as Santa Claus has. 153 yards last week. Once again, he's a load.
I got out there, I did what I was supposed to do, and I proved that I still have it. I'm not, I'm not the weak link or anything like that. And that was really important for me. I wanted to make sure that I was prepared myself each week to be ready for the situation if someone got hurt, and I think I did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, pretty good job. We said that they had their quarterback arsenal ready. They got their running back arsenal ready, Tommy.
Yes, they do, Chris. And anytime you get to the playoffs, so much is made of the skill positions. But the key to who wins the Raiders-Chiefs games is going to be line play, especially when you consider how well the Chiefs run the ball and how badly the Raiders have been defending. You look at the intricacies of this at full speed, they're hard to see. But as we slow this down for you, the keys, Chiefs, hat on hat, everybody getting to their blocks, and the Raiders not getting in the rush lanes. Barry Word also spotting the cutback lane very quickly. Then as he gets down the football field, what he gives you that Christian Okoye doesn't, good vision. He spots Ronnie Lott out of the corner of his right eye, gets the extra 2 or 3 yards that you want. Those 2 or 3 yards may be the difference between first downs and punting the football.
Well, they got 3 backs who are all ready to go, and they all pose different problems to the Raiders.
Certainly they do. Christian Okoye, I think, definitely the best power runner, pure power runner in football. Barry Word gives you similar power, but he has the nice moves once he gets down the football field, and then what I like to call the Corvette effect when they bring in Harvey Williams, because he changes the pace of the game so much defensively, it's just hard to gauge.
It's not like he's built like Meggett, you know, that no. type of Corvette, but compared to the big guys, he is like a Corvette. And if the Raiders don't stop all 3 of those guys, then that play action that, Joe, you were talking about really, really works. Another note here with the Raiders, they feel though they have a better shot to stop the run than they did last couple of weeks. Howie Long, he's back, although his knee doesn't make him 100%. He's back in the lineup. Bob Golick has a calf full of blood, but they say he's feeling better. Anthony Smith has a shoulder. He's feeling better. So they feel they're better off up front than they've been in a few weeks. They had better be. We'll be back with more on this game and our full look at today.
The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
Well, it's tumble time and it's fumble time. Hey, ready, set, go, you gotta hit that line. Hell, catch the ball. Hey, make a run. Oh, most of all, you gotta have a lot of fun. We're gonna make you smile and get rid of your blues and do the NFL Wildcard boogie for you. Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Are you ready for a 2 back-to-back get down smash mouth playoff show? We're gonna make you smile and get rid of your blues and do the NFL Wildcard boogie for you. Are you ready for the football? It's a playoff doubleheader that's coming your way. It's the NFL Wildcards, and it's time to play.
You are looking live at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, where the road to the Super Bowl begins with this AFC Wildcard matchup. It's the Los Angeles Raiders against the Kansas City Chiefs. It has been 20 long years since this city hosted a playoff game. And the atmosphere is electric as these fans have lined up for the last 2 days waiting to get their tickets. As for the Raiders, well, it wouldn't be a Raider game without a touch of a controversy. All week, the Raiders have refused to tell the media, will it be the veteran Jay Schrader or the youngster Todd Marinovich, who was brilliant in his debut. No controversy with the Chiefs. The oldest active player in the National Football League as we begin the playoffs, Steve DeBerg, has won his last 5 against the Raiders.
The Lexus NFL Wildcard Playoff Report. Brought to you by Lexus Luxury Automobiles. The result of a relentless pursuit of perfection.
Well, welcome to Arrowhead, everybody. I'm Brett Musburger along with Dick Vermeil and Lynn Swan. We're going to talk about the Raiders quarterback situation. We'll take a look back at the Chiefs' last playoff game in Kansas City. But first, let's get you up to date with the playoff picture. It is somewhat confusing on this wild card weekend. Now, as far as the AFC is concerned, our game today is the only AFC game. The New York Jets are in Houston to meet the Oilers tomorrow. But there are 6 teams in the AFC playoffs. The first 2 draw byes this weekend. And I guess the easiest way to try and figure out who your favorite team is going to play next is take the Buffalo Bills. They're the #1 seed. They will play the lowest surviving seed. In other words, if the Jets upset Houston, they will head to Buffalo. But if form holds this weekend, the winner of the Raiders-Chiefs game will go to Buffalo. How about the NFC? The second game today on ABC. It'll come your way out of New Orleans. Frank Gifford, the gang down there. The Atlanta Falcons will play the Saints. And tomorrow in Chicago, it'll be the Cowboys and the Bears. So the 2 teams that draw the byes in the NFC are the Redskins and the Lions. Washington, the top seed. And again, just like Buffalo in the AFC, they will play the lowest surviving seed, and that would be Atlanta if they can win for the second time this year in New Orleans. But if not, then it will be the Bears or the Cowboys. The last time the playoff game came to Kansas City. What a classic. Christmas Day, 1971. War paint with a final ride around Municipal. The great Len Dawson at the controls for Hank Stram. Ed Podolak, who acquired better than 300 yards that day in total yardage. And there was Bob Greasy to the Hall of Fame fullback Larry Zonka as the two teams went back and forth into the fourth quarter. Then with time running out, it was Greasy. 5 yards to Marv Fleming, deadlocked at 24. The Chiefs drew down, set up for what they felt sure was a winning field goal. The normally reliable Hall of Famer Jan Stenerud was wide to the right. And they went through one overtime, then into the second overtime. And it was Garo Yepremian with this winner. And it still stands as the longest football game in the history of the National Football League. And Dick Vermeil, hard to believe, but the last playoff game here in Kansas City, I'll tell you what, these fans are so fired up about finally getting a playoff matchup back here.
Well, they are, and it's a big advantage for Kansas City. I'll tell you, over the years in the National Football League playoff system, the home teams have won over 60% of it. And I know in my own personal experience coaching in 6 of them at Philadelphia, we won all 3 at home and lost all 3 on the road. Now, for Oakland Raiders, I think it's a little bit tougher. Here they are, 2 hours. Oh,
didn't take you long.
Didn't take me long. I was born in Northern California. Remember that?
All right, we'll forgive you that.
But anyway, you know, they come in here with a 2-hour time zone difference. And for example, this morning they ate breakfast equivalent to 5:30 in the morning their time in Southern California. Tough on those guys. Of course, if they wanted to control that, they should have played better last week.
You know, the way they got here was last week. And never have I seen in a losing game this important with a losing quarterback came out of it with so much publicity as young Todd Marinovich did in his initial start. Coming out of the field full of that youthful enthusiasm and 2 touchdown passes to Tim Brown, 3 on the day, not a single interception he threw against that veteran secondary. But Steve DeBerg is always the story when the Chiefs play the Raiders. J.J. Burton on the other end of this 57-yard scoring strike, and the Chiefs maintain the lead. But Marinovich kept the Raiders in the game. Here he was going to his tight end, Willie Horton, who caught 10 passes on the day. And the lead was down to 6. And then it was back to the Chiefs. Perhaps the most important play of the game. The Raiders gambled in this situation. They came with the safety blitz, and the Chiefs again went to Burton, the fastest player on the team. The former long jump champion out of Oregon did the rest. 8 catches for 188 yards. And you know, Dick, during the game, Bill Walsh said that Al Davis would start Todd Marinovich and should start Todd Marinovich in this game. But your feeling is it's not quite that simple when you also have a veteran quarterback on your team.
I know. Of course, Bill Walsh won more games than I did, so he's probably right. But my indoctrination to pro football was with George Allen, and he was really a believer in experience. And that's part of me. I think if your experienced quarterback is healthy, you play him. If he's not healthy, then you go with the younger guy.
Hey, what did John Wooden tell you when you were at UCLA?
John Wooden always said, hey, you go with talent instead.
Well, you know, Lynn Swann has been down on the field. He has spoken with both quarterbacks earlier today. And Lynn, what is the latest word from the Raider Brain Trust on the quarterback status?
Well, Brent, at warm-ups, I talked to Art Shell at midfield, and I said, give me the name of the starting quarterback. And he said, you're going to have to wait until kickoff. But earlier today, before any of the fans got into the stadium, Todd Marinovich was out warming up with his quarterback coach, Mike White. I talked to Todd. He said he was nervous last night. He didn't sleep well. He talked about infinite possibilities and fulfilling dreams this afternoon. Then Mike White said, if you can't tell who's going to start the game by this action, then you really don't know football. Well, later on in warm-ups, Jay Schrader came out, and I talked with him. I said, how are your ankles? He said, if I had to run a 40-yard dash, it would take me 2 weeks. But when the kickoff comes, I'll be running around out here like a young buck. So I think what's going to happen is the Raiders are going to start Todd Marinovich, but Jay Schrader will be ready to play, guys.
All right, Lynn, just as everyone expects, young Marinovich will get the call. Coming up next, we're going to check in with Frank Gifford down in New Orleans. That's where we'll go for our second game at the doubleheader, Atlanta and the Saints. That's coming up. It's been 20 years since the playoff cameras last focused on these good folks in Kansas City, and I guess you could say the tomahawk chop is definitely the most popular dance in sports this year. Now, the Raiders a year ago advanced all the way to the AFC title game. Then they were blown out by Buffalo 51-3, so Al Davis did not stand pat. When Ronnie Lott became available, he immediately picked up the all-pro veteran safety man. And all Lott did this year was lead the National Football League with 8 interceptions. He had a time to reflect on what this game means and how he has been so good in that secondary for the Raiders.
I think the reason that I've been able to come up with interceptions or big plays this year is just understanding what offenses are trying to do to defenses. I think also it takes a little luck. Guys that play in silver and black, as I was growing up, they always played the game tough. They always were aggressive. So I've always felt like I had some of that in me, that type of attitude. His heart tough. Yeah, he's tough, and the reason he's tough is because he's respected. His demeanor is always the same. You know, very seldom do you see him get too excited or too emotional, and when he does, you know it's sincere. That to me is what a coach is about. It's something where the players can touch and say, hey, yeah, he's been there. He's been in the, he's been in the trenches before. He understands it, and people respond to that. Well, I think when you look at the situation that we're in, we played Monday night and we come back Sunday, now we're playing Saturday, and of course everybody can sit there and say, well, boy, you guys are probably tired, you're beat up, you've had injuries, and yet that's an excuse that you just can't have at this time of the year, and the reason why is that you're one of the elite teams that still has an opportunity to be a part of the dance. When you play past 8 years, the game should be fun. You should want to go out the way you came in, with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of zest for the game, a lot of will for the game. I know that I'm not going to play forever. I'm going to play as long as I can. I guess since they don't have a gym rat, that's what I am in a sense, I'm a football rat, I guess.
So coming up, we're going to hear from the Kansas City Chiefs' brilliant head coach, Marty Schottenheimer. Our Lexus NFL Wildcard Playoff report continues from Kansas City. Marty Schottenheimer has turned this franchise around. For the first time since the glory days of the 60s, this team has won 10-plus games in back-to-back years. We had a chance to sit down with the head coach.
Our goals and objectives have gone beyond just getting into the playoffs. Our idea from the outset was to establish very lofty goals, which very simply stated was to win a world's championship.
Boys, one play at a time. We've got some pressure. We got some pressure on them now.
Winning is the basis on which you can become accepted or adopted, as the case may be in any community. I think fans have a right to expect a quality product, and with that, winning. Teams are so very evenly matched in the playoffs. Clearly what happened to us a year ago in Miami is evidence of what you have to be on guard for. We got up 17 or 16-3, I guess the score was in that ball game, and I think maybe some of us tended to celebrate a little bit, and of course, as we're well aware, Miami came back and won the ball game. We are a defensive team that's built around speed, there is no doubt, particularly as it relates to pass rush. I've always had great respect for everybody who plays this game, and certainly the Raiders and their great success over time. I've always had a feeling that when people get backed in a corner, they tend to perform better, and I think that that's the one thing about them that we have to be mindful of. If we get them in this situation and we let them get excited and get encouraged about maybe experiencing success, it's going to make it more difficult for us.
Well, Dick, one of the best things that Marty has going here today is Steve DeBerg. He's red hot against the Raiders, won his last 5. What must that Raider defense do?
Well, the first thing you have to do is defense the people that he hands the ball off to. Kansas City comes to run the football. Then you better do a good job against the play actions coming off those fine runs.
Now, they just introduced Todd Marinovich as the starting quarterback. So what does that do to the Chiefs' defense? They've had a week to study him.
There's no longer surprise. They'll put more pressure on him and cover the receivers much tighter.
All right, let's go downstairs now for final words from Lynn Swann. Lynn?
And talking about pressure, that's what they didn't have last week against the Raiders. And Derek Thomas told me that they're going to be much more aggressive. He's going to come charging in, and they intend to put pressure on Marinovich, sack him, and make him think about throwing the football.
So coming up, it's the AFC Wildcard playoff game. The Los Angeles Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. That'll be next on ABC.